What happened when an undercover CEO walked into his own sporting goods store and saw a star employee collapse from exhaustion? Hey there, amazing listeners. You've got great taste for tuning in today. This eye-opening story takes you behind the scenes as a CEO trades his suit for a name tag and discovers just how broken his company's culture has become. From silent burnout to bold reform, you'll witness a powerful journey of accountability, empathy, and real change. If you believe true leadership starts on the ground, this one's for you. Let's enjoy the story. Colton Reeves stood in the parking lot of Summit Sports Store 6, tugging the zipper of his windbreaker against the sharp autumn wind. He adjusted the brim of his faded baseball cap and glanced at his reflection in the glass window. No longer the polished CEO who graced leadership panels and investor briefings. Today he was Cal, the newest floor assistant on a trial shift, wearing a basic navy polo, khakis, and a name tag hastily printed by the assistant manager. For the first time in years, Colton was stepping into one of his own stores, not as a boss, but as a beginner. The decision hadn't come lightly. 8 years ago, he'd acquired Summit Sport when it was on the verge of collapse, underfunded, overstocked, and barely surviving the competitive outdoor gear market. He rebuilt it piece by piece, expanded it into 18 locations, and built a reputation for dependable products and community-focused service. Or so he thought. In the last month, customer complaints had quietly surged. Not the kind that get logged into corporate CRMs, but public, damning ones. Online reviews describing rude staff, long wait times, cluttered aisles, even accusations of unsafe working conditions. But what really caught his attention was the turnover. 3 employees had quit Store 6 in under 2 weeks. That didn't happen without a deeper problem. HR had nothing helpful to offer, just spreadsheets showing acceptable sales and decent margins. But Colton knew numbers could lie. So, without fanfare, he created a fictional internal training initiative, had corporate sign-off on a fast-tracked onboarding pilot, and arranged to shadow staff at the store under a fake identity. Brenda Kim, the district manager, signed the paperwork without asking a single question. As he approached the automatic doors, Colton felt something he hadn't in a while: uncertainty. He was used to data dashboards and growth metrics, not floor plans and folding ladders. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. A rack of cleats tilted sideways near the entrance. 2 customers lingered in the camping aisle. A handwritten sign at the front desk read, "Short-staffed, please be patient." Colton took a deep breath. This wasn't about fixing a single store. This was about finding out if the empire he'd built was rotting at the foundation, and if it was, he needed to see it with his own eyes, before it all came crashing down. The moment Colton, now Cal, stepped through the sliding doors of Summit Sports Store 6, the energy hit him like a cold slap. The air smelled faintly of rubber, dust, and forgotten sweat from the gym section near the back. Boxes lined the edges of the footwear aisle, and a display of tennis rackets leaned at an awkward angle as if someone had half-fixed it and walked away. At the front counter stood Darren Holt, the store manager, slouched over an iPad with earbuds dangling from his collar. He didn't look up when Cal introduced himself. "You're the trainee, right? Shadow Jenna," Darren muttered, waving his hand vaguely toward the right side of the store. No welcome, no tour, no orientation video, just a shove into the deep end. Cal scanned the floor and spotted Jenna Morales, a petite woman in a Summit Sport fleece vest, crouched beside a stack of climbing gear, organizing harnesses with military precision. Her ponytail was slightly frizzed, and there was a tightness in her shoulders that spoke volumes. She turned when she heard her name and offered Cal a polite half-smile that didn't quite reach her tired eyes. "I'm Jenna, you can stick with me today, just a heads up, we're short again. Rico called out and Lila's last shift was yesterday." She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. From the moment they started, it was clear Jenna wasn't just multitasking, she was running the floor. She answered customer questions about kayaks, processed returns, price-checkered items with her phone, and still managed to coach Cal on folding apparel the Summit Sport way. Her movements were fast, efficient, but mechanical, like someone running on fumes. Meanwhile, Tyshawn Brooks, another associate with a quiet demeanor and quick reflexes, zipped around the basketball aisle, restocking shoes, with a no-nonsense rhythm. Throughout the day, Cal noticed something unsettling. The team didn't talk much unless necessary, and when Darren emerged from the back, the atmosphere tightened. He barked occasional orders, "Jenna, fix the trail display," or "Taishan, mop up aisle 6, but never lifted a finger himself. The tension was visible, and the wear was written all over Jenna's face. By mid-shift, Cal had already seen what HQ never could: a team overburdened, a manager disengaged, and a system quietly cracking, and it was only Monday. By early afternoon, the store was buzzing with frustrated energy. Customers trickled in steadily, some looking for cleats for their kids, others comparing rowing machines or waiting on online pickup orders that hadn't been staged yet. Cal followed Jenna through the chaos, watching as she handled 3 conversations at once, answering questions about bike sizing, scanning items for a return, and flagging down Taishan to help with restocking. Her voice remained even, but her responses grew shorter. Her hands, once quick and precise, now fumbled occasionally on the POS screen. Then came the breaking point. A sharply dressed man in business casual stood by the register, tapping his smartwatch impatiently. "Excuse me," he said, his tone biting. "I placed a pickup order over 30 minutes ago. Is there a reason I'm being ignored?" Jenna turned, politely apologizing. "I'm really sorry for the wait, sir. We've had several team members call out. Let me grab it right away." She started toward the back, but Darren, who had just emerged from the stockroom with a protein bar in hand, scoffed audibly. "Maybe if some people moved faster, we wouldn't have this problem," he muttered, just loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Jenna didn't react. She simply nodded and continued walking. Cal, standing beside a rack of winter jackets, clenched his jaw. Breaks were clearly not part of the day's rhythm. Cal had been on his feet for hours with no sign of anyone stopping to rest, especially not Jenna. Every time he tried to ask when she last ate or sat down, another call came through on the walkie, another customer flagged her, another mess had to be cleaned. She barely took a breath. Around 4 p.m., the foot traffic finally eased. Jenna leaned against the register counter, one hand bracing herself, the other gripping a barcode scanner. "You good?" Cal asked gently. She gave a quick nod, though her hands were trembling. "Yeah, just need a second." Before either of them could say more, Darren's voice rang out from behind. "Jenna, lobby's a mess. Go clean it before the regional display rep gets here." Cal turned to object, but Jenna pushed herself upright. "I got it," she said softly. She picked up a rag and cleaner from under the counter, took 3 steps toward the aisle, and crumpled. The rag hit the floor first, then Jenna. Her knees buckled, her head grazed the corner of a display shelf on the way down. For one stunned second, the store went silent. Then someone screamed. The moment Jenna collapsed, everything in the store froze. A shopper near the treadmill section gasped audibly. Another dropped their basket and rushed forward, pulling out a phone to call 911. Cal was already at Jenna's side, gently turning her onto her back. Her eyes were closed, her skin pale, and a faint bruise had already begun forming near her temple. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Her pulse was fast but present. "She's breathing," he called out, trying to stay calm. His own heart thudded hard in his chest, adrenaline rising. This wasn't just burnout, this was physical collapse. Darren jogged over, chewing his energy bar, eyes wide. "What the hell happened?" he asked, looking down as if Jenna had simply tripped. "She passed out," Cal snapped. "Call an ambulance." "Now," Darren hesitated. "She's probably just dehydrated, maybe low blood sugar. Let's not make this a—" "She hit her head," Cal interrupted, voice sharp. "Do it." At that moment, a woman in jogging gear stepped forward from the crowd. "I'm a paramedic," she said, kneeling. "Let me check her." Cal stepped aside, grateful. The woman quickly examined Jenna. "She's out cold. This isn't just a faint, she needs fluids and observation." Darren hovered nervously, still trying to downplay the scene. "I didn't even know she hadn't taken a break." Cal shot him a look. "No one's taken a break. I've been here since open. Neither Jenna nor Taishan has sat down once." The ambulance arrived within minutes. Cal rode with Jenna, still posing as Cal, the new trainee. In the back of the vehicle, he watched her chest rise and fall in shallow rhythms, her name tag clutched tightly in her hand. Something twisted inside him. Not guilt exactly, but a reckoning. This was not the summit sport he had built. It wasn't supposed to be a place where hard work led to collapse, where dependable employees were punished by silence and overwork. But the numbers had looked fine, so no one had questioned the system. Until now. At the hospital, Jenna was stabilized, diagnosed with severe dehydration and fatigue trauma. A mild concussion from the fall meant she'd need to stay overnight. Before leaving, Cal ensured her time off would be fully paid, quietly arranging it under corporate policy without revealing his identity. As he stepped out into the cool dusk, he didn't call a car to go home. Instead, he headed straight back to Store 6. He had seen enough. Tomorrow, everything will change. Starting with Darren. When Cal stepped back into Summit Sports Store 6 that evening, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, but the earlier chaos had settled into an eerie quiet. Darren was nowhere in sight. Cal walked to the break room and took in the cluttered mess, half-eaten snacks on the counter, a busted coffee maker with a "Do Not Use" sign, and a dusty binder of outdated training materials. On the back wall, the staff schedule was taped up crookedly. Jenna's name appeared again and again, sometimes on both closing and opening shifts, with less than 6 hours in between. There was no mystery left. This wasn't bad luck or short staffing. It was abuse. Opening the supply closet, Cal found uneven stacks of shoeboxes, expired electrolyte packs, and faulty shelving. A layer of grime clung to the bottom of the fridge where employees stored their lunches, if they even had time to eat them. He snapped photos quietly. Then he approached Tyshawn, who was resetting a basketball display. "Can I ask you something?" Cal said, keeping his voice low. Tyshawn glanced up. "Has anyone talked to corporate about how things are run here?" Tyshawn gave a short laugh. "We've tried. Darren shuts it down, says we're lucky to have jobs in retail, that we're replaceable." Cal nodded slowly. "What about Jenna?" "She picked up every shift no one wanted, stayed late, came in early, never complained. Just didn't want the place to fall apart." Tyshawn paused, his tone hardening. "She shouldn't have had to carry this store." The next morning, after hours of reviewing time cards, punch logs, and employee feedback from the past 30 days, Cal made the call. Brenda Kim, the district manager, answered after 2 rings. "Brenda, it's Colton. We need to talk. Store 6 has gone off the rails. I want you and someone from HR here this afternoon." When Brenda and a company HR rep arrived, Cal didn't wait. He led them straight to the back office where Darren sat with his feet up, scrolling on his tablet. "What's this about?" Darren asked, raising an eyebrow, as Brenda and HR. Cal removed his name badge and cap. "I'm not Cal, I'm Colton Reeve." Darren froze. What? You've run this store with no accountability, no concern for your team, and you let one of our best employees collapse on your watch." HR didn't hesitate. "Darren, effective immediately, your employment is terminated." No one protested, not even Darren. With Darren gone, the atmosphere inside Store 6 shifted almost overnight. The tension that once clung to the air like static had begun to dissolve. Colton didn't return to his corner office or send in a replacement manager. Instead, he showed up the next morning in work boots and a fleece vest, just another pair of hands willing to clean, organize, and observe. He gathered the team for a brief, informal huddle. No speeches, just a quiet promise. "We're going to do better, starting today." Then he got to work. He promoted Tyshawn to interim shift lead and gave him full authority to implement changes that made the floor function smoother. No micromanagement, no scripts, just trust. Tyshawn responded by setting up a rotation board that ensured every staff member got a proper break, something that hadn't happened in months. Tasks were now assigned in 2-hour blocks, giving associates like Nia, who had once felt invisible, space to focus on what they were good at. Jumped into whatever was needed, unloading shipments, restocking helmets, even manning the return counter during a rush. Staff noticed. Jenna, still recovering at home, had been informed she would receive full pay for her time off. No paperwork required, no questions asked. Cal made sure of it himself. When he called to check in, her voice cracked with disbelief. "Thank you," was all she could manage. He didn't push for more. She'd be back when she was ready. Meanwhile, the store began to feel different. Customers who had once stormed out in frustration were now being greeted with eye contact and honest timelines. A whiteboard appeared near the staff lockers with a handwritten note. "Write what you need. nothing off limits. The first requests were small: new box cutters, better gloves, working barcode scanners. Colton approved them all. By week's end, the staff started looking each other in the eye again. Nia, who had nearly quit the week before, took the initiative to restage the fitness gear section without being asked. Tyshawn stayed late voluntarily to help train a new hire. Colton stood near the camping aisle that Friday night, watching the team move with a quiet rhythm. Not perfect, but present, grounded. For the first time in a long while, Store 6 felt alive. Back at headquarters the following Monday, Colton sat across from Dev Patel, Summit Sports' long-standing director of operations. The glossy boardroom walls, pristine hardwood floors, and chrome fixtures felt strangely sterile to Colton now, out of sync with the raw human reality he had just witnessed on the retail floor. "We need a reset," he said plainly, "not just at Store 6. Across the board." Dev, ever pragmatic, leaned forward cautiously. "Define reset." Colton didn't hesitate. Fewer layers of oversight from a distance. More embedded leadership. "I want every district lead to spend at least 3 days a week on site rotating through stores, and I want that written into their contracts." Dev blinked, but didn't argue. "You're expecting pushback," he said. "I'm counting on it," Colton replied. "And if they can't adapt, they're free to leave." Over the next week, a new structure began to form. Summit Sports training manuals were pulled from HR and handed over to a small team of frontline associates to rebuild, including Tyshawn and 2 leads from other branches. The focus shifted from sterile corporate language like performance benchmarks to practical, human-centered phrases. "What support do you need?" and "How can we help you succeed?" Jenna, now feeling stronger, returned to the store not to resume her old duties, but to meet with Colton over coffee and discuss a new opportunity. He wanted her to lead a company-wide overhaul of onboarding and training, designed not from a desk, but from lived experience. "You'd be based here," he said, "but your insights would shape every new hire's first month at Summit Sport." Jenna hesitated. "Why me?" Colton gave her a small smile. "Because you never let the place fall apart, even when we failed you." Meanwhile, Colton launched the Summit Council, a staff feedback board made up of 1 representative from each store, none of them in management. They would meet monthly, share concerns directly with the executive team, and have veto power on proposed policy changes that affected daily operations. The first council meeting was raw and honest. Associates spoke about burnout, lack of training, and being treated like numbers. Colton didn't talk much. He listened, scribbled notes, and nodded often. Jenna facilitated, writing every comment on a whiteboard. By the end of the meeting, over 20 actionable items had been circled. Later, Colton stood outside headquarters, watching as storm clouds gathered in the distance. For the first time in years, he wasn't looking at profit charts. He was watching people, and he knew, deep in his gut, this was the most valuable metric he'd ever pay attention to. In the weeks that followed, Summit Sports Store 6 didn't just improve, it transformed. The changes weren't flashy or corporate approved with banners and slogans. They were quiet, steady, and real. Jenna returned part-time, not as a floor associate, but as a training consultant. She observed shifts, asked questions, and took notes, often sitting with new hires to walk through their experiences. Meanwhile, Tyshawn, now the official shift lead, had built a rotating schedule system that ensured every team member got consistent breaks. He taped it to the back office wall next to a new dry erase board labeled Ideas and Fixes. For the first time, employees actually wrote on it, suggesting layout changes, customer service tips, and even playlist ideas for the in-store speakers. Cal, no longer pretending, still came in several times a week. He didn't hover or lecture. He scrubbed counters, refilled water bottles, and quietly observed. The staff had stopped flinching when he entered the room. They greeted him with nods, sometimes even small smiles. Nia, once on the verge of quitting, was now mentoring a new hire named Jordan, teaching him how to properly assemble resistance training kits. Marcus, who used to keep his head down in the back, had taken over organizing the outdoor apparel section, adding signage he hand-wrote himself. One Friday evening, Jenna joined Tyshawn and the team during closing. They wiped down the floor mats, reshelved items, and laughed about a toddler who had tried to crawl inside a tent earlier that day. As the lights dimmed and the security gate lowered, Tyshawn asked Jenna, "Think this will stick?" She looked around the store, the cleanliness, the calm, the teamwork. "It already is," she replied. That same night, Colton hosted the second Summit Council meeting in a newly converted training room upstairs. No titles, no badges, just a circle of chairs, coffee, and a single whiteboard with 3 questions. What's working? What's failing? What's next? When the meeting ended, Jenna caught Colton's eye. "You're still showing up," she said. "Good." He nodded. "I'm not here to fix everything. I'm here to build something better, with all of you." Outside, the wind picked up, scattering leaves across the sidewalk. But inside the store, for the first time in years, the team didn't feel like they were surviving. They felt like they were building something that mattered. By the end of the month, Store 6 had become something of a quiet prototype, a living example of what Summit Sport could be when people came first. On a crisp Saturday morning, the team hosted a community gear drive, offering free equipment checks and discounts to families who donated gently used sportswear for youth programs. There were no corporate banners, no executives giving speeches, just employees who cared. Marisol, a part-timer who once stayed silent during huddles, now ran the front table with Jordan, carefully labeling every donated item. Tyshawn floated between stations, coaching a young athlete on cleat fitting like a seasoned mentor. Marcus gave a demonstration on hiking gear to a group of first-time campers, his voice confident, his posture relaxed. Colton stood near the back, leaning against a display of yoga mats, sipping a basic black coffee and watching the team move with purpose, not out of obligation but pride. He didn't need to step in, they had it. He noticed the new break schedule board, clean, color-coded, and respected. Jenna passed him, clipboard in hand, pausing only to say, "You're not needed today." Her smile, subtle but genuine, told him it was a good thing. Later that afternoon, Colton returned to headquarters to meet with Dev. The office still looked the same, polished surfaces, framed awards, but Colton saw it differently now. He sat across from Dev, dropped a folder on the table and said, "These are the final approvals. Jenna's redesign for break rooms goes company-widely. Travel expenses are already cleared, and I want her layout updates tested in 4 more stores next quarter." Dev opened the folder, scanning the specs. "She did this all from the floor?" "Exactly," Colton said. "That's where the real data lives." In the final weeks of rollout, new training materials, written by Jenna, Tyshawn, and a cross-store team, replaced outdated HR modules. The language was direct and compassionate. No more jargon about efficiency benchmarks. Instead, we take care of people so they can take care of customers. At the third Summit Council meeting, a barista from a flagship store raised a hand. "This is the first time I've felt heard," she said. Colton didn't speak. He didn't need to. The culture was changing, not from above, but from within. And for the first time in years, Summit Sport wasn't just a brand, it was a place people believed in again. The story of Colton Reeve and Summit Sport teaches a powerful lesson about leadership. Numbers may reflect performance, but they rarely tell the whole truth. True success isn't just measured in profit margins or sales charts. It's built on people. When leaders lose touch with the frontline experience, they risk building systems that look efficient on paper, but fail the very humans who keep them running. Colton's decision to go undercover forced him to confront the reality his employees lived every day: exhaustion, neglect, and silence. Through empathy, action, and humility, he transformed not just a failing store, but an entire culture. The story reminds us that listening, showing up, and empowering those on the ground are not signs of weak leadership. They are the foundation of lasting impact. Systems change when people at the top are willing to get their hands dirty and admit when they've fallen short. In the end, the greatest transformation wasn't in policies or training manuals, it was in the trust rebuilt between leadership and staff. That's what makes a company not just successful, but meaningful.